Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Know Your Builder, the episode where we interview builders from the broader Ethereum ecosystem. Today, we are joined with Bernard from Areta, one of the founders of Areta, which is an investment banking for crypto. But the focus of today's episode will be Areta Marketplace. Bernard, how are you doing?
Very good, very good. Excited to be here. Thanks for setting this up. And yeah, great to have the pleasure with both of you, which I didn't expect, but yeah, very much looking forward.
Absolutely. We've crossed paths in so many different places, and I'm really happy to have you on the show. Before we begin, I would love to give a quick intro, firstly to yourself, so people can know who you are, and also to Areta and what they do.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Bernard, as you said, co-founder of Areta. We're a leading investment banking firm in the space, now also leading the rollout of our builder services marketplace, which we're going to talk about today. Background of Areta is basically we do our service providers to crypto companies and foundations on three verticals. The first one is M&A, so we're a sell-side advisor to founders that are looking to sell their companies. We do capital markets transactions predominantly for VCs, and then we have an on-chain services team. So this team works predominantly with DeFi organizations on strategic projects, but also builder services. And this is also where the marketplace came from as the first product spin out that is now solving service provider procurement in crypto.
Perfect. And do you want to give a quick overview? We'll dive deeper, but do you want to give a quick overview of what Areta Marketplace is?
Yeah, 100%. So in essence, I love to explain it because it's very easy to pick up. It's not a tough one to explain. So it's a two-sided marketplace that basically gets critical services to crypto builders. So you have critical services on the one side, and these are providers of specific verticals that are whitelisted and vetted. The first vertical that we rolled this out with is audit. So you have a list of 25 auditors on the one side, and then builders on the other side can basically enter the marketplace and look for the service that they request. The mechanism, and we can look at it in detail later, is very simple. The builder goes on the platform, says, hey, I need a specific smart contract audit, then gets multiple offers into his inbox, then can basically pick one that fits their economic and quality preference. This is the kind of mechanism. The value obviously comes from different angles. So on the process side, the unlock is you have everything in one place. You don't need to rely on different communication channels. Some people might approach you on a conference, but you don't really know. You don't really have a market overview. So with that, you have everything in one place, complete overview of who's out there. You can set your own timelines as a builder. So you basically go there and say, look, I need an audit in 6 weeks, and this is the deadline. So please only send me an offer if you can meet my deadline. So you basically set and lead the process. And then with the comparability of offers, you unlock price advantages. And what you see in crypto service categories, there's a huge price variance. As a builder with receiving 10 to 12 different quotes, you can basically pick what price and quality you also want from the service that you're requesting.
Christoph, I think you have a question.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say that maybe it would be easier and better if you just go deep into it already, and if you can show us how does it look like and how exactly do we interact with it?
Yeah, 100%. Let me share. This is the environment that we've launched for Uniswap as one ecosystem where the marketplace is live. Here's the project interface. So you basically enter the marketplace, submit a new request. This is the subsidy functionality. It's a bit, a topic that can be built on top. So the platform also is there to facilitate subsidies on top. It's not necessary, so the marketplace also works without. And in essence, then you go into simple form as a builder, type in, details about the services that you request, details about your project, upload a link to your GitHub repo, and then basically just add specificities. What type of audits do you need? The timeline. Funnily enough, a big unlock that I didn't even expect that much, but that we hear a lot from builders that ownership on the process is a big one. So need to audit in 6 weeks, email, Telegram, and so on. So basically just some details, and then you upload that request on the platform.
Isn't that anybody can upload it? Like who can submit such a request?
Any builder. So right now we're live on 5 different ecosystems. The ecosystems basically own that platform as part of their builder support initiatives. So right now, any builder on those 5 ecosystems can go on the platform and upload a request. This is kind of the open marketplace concept. There's additionally, for some ecosystems, a subsidy fund live. So that is a parallel process. It's similar to requesting a grant. So you go to the foundation or whoever is managing that and can request a subsidy for the service. An example is Uniswap. So they have been leading this subsidy program, are giving out subsidies up to 100% for audits to the builders that they then decide should receive a subsidy.
Okay, so if let's say I'm a builder on Uniswap, since here this is what the test environment is for, I can go here and I can submit a request, and then firms will send me their quote or their offer for the audit.
Exactly.
And are the service providers that can send an offer, are they whitelisted, or can any service provider use the marketplace?
They go through a whitelisting process, and this is also individual per ecosystem. We are only the objective infrastructure in the middle. We have an in-house security person who kind of assesses the application, but the final decision making is with the foundation. So for the Uniswap case, they whitelisted 25 providers. You can also find them anywhere on the websites of the marketplace and so on, where they say, okay, these are the high quality parties that we want to be involved and want to give audits to the builders that we have in the ecosystem.
Okay, and what about like visibility? I imagine the visibility of like the UI looks different if you're a builder or if you're requesting an audit or if you are a firm. But can anyone see the requests, or can only the audit providers see the requests made from projects?
Exactly. So you have the provider interface that looks somewhat similar with a bit of different functionality, and you see a BD funnel basically for them with all the projects that requested an audit, and then you can go in and see what audit requests you want to provide an offer to. The builders on the other side, and this is what that then looks like roughly. Obviously, this is kind of the demo environment, but you see all the offers that you have next to each other with the timelines, cost differences, and then can double click, and typically there are like files and offers attached to that. Interestingly, so this is also public data that we launched after our initial pilot with Uniswap. So on average, a builder gets 10 to 12 audit offers with 1 request uploaded, which is obviously a massive unlock if you compare it to the manual procurement process that a builder would typically go through. And the process still is that the builder typically picks up the call and takes a call with most of the offers that he gets. So it's not all on platform and says, okay, based on the info that I get sent, but still there's one interaction point where you discuss scope on the call, get a feeling also for the party if you want to work together with them and so on, and then the final selection is made on platform.
Okay, perfect. So and the offers from the different providers, only the project has submitted the request can see them, right? Not like each provider cannot see the offer from each other.
Exactly. And that's obviously, as you can tell, quite important also.
Yeah, of course. Right, and I want to ask, what made Areta, what made an investment banking firm build this?
Yeah, that's the interesting one to explain, obviously. So as you know, we have an on-chain services team that is not only doing investment banking services, but is mainly working with foundations or DAOs also more in the past on strategic problems. I myself come also from builder slash McKinsey side as my dark past, where I was basically doing that on a daily, is basically solving, strategic problems. And this can have any shape or form. Oftentimes, these were twofold. So either an ecosystem needs, more builders or more users, and obviously they're somewhat intertwined, right? With better applications, you get more users and so on. And at some point, we were, thinking through what are the biggest inefficiencies right now to get to builders. And on top of mind, I was three things: capital, distribution, and then support services. So every builder, if you talk to them, kind of looks for mostly all of the threes. And the big theme right now is how do we turn builders or like early projects into founders? And to unlock that, most of the foundations right now in the space are thinking through, okay, we have, hundreds of hackathon participants, but most of them die off, and either they never want to found a company or they don't make it. So how can we get them to the funnel to actually become a like self-sustaining company that, ideally even raises outside capital and then can like flourish and grow on the ecosystem and become something that way you can get a competitive edge. That's basically the big problem to solve. For us, the inefficiencies of service provider procurement was just one big unlock that we, have the expertise in-house to solve. And we started with an MVP to see, if it works out. But if you look at the service provider category as one big piece of the puzzle to solve, improving, builder support, it's basically ripe for a marketplace because it's an extremely fragmented category. You have oftentimes, north of 50 or 100 parties doing the same. You have very little transparency on pricing and quality. And then all of these are also then resulting in, big BD functions of those providers who want to close mandates. They spend hundreds of thousands on acquiring projects to charge them a lot so they can refinance BD and so on. So it's just like ripe for an efficiency channel, and this is what we want to do with the marketplace. I know that was a long-winded answer, but basically we came from a problem that we solved for one ecosystem, and the marketplace was, pretty much the mechanic how we could solve it in the most efficient manner. And that was the starting point. And now we're really doubling down on, making it a better solution for all parts of the marketplace, because obviously if the builder side, for them it's already, I think a pretty good unlock, transparency, fast and so on. For ecosystems, it's a big unlock because typically the conversation you have with the head of ecosystem or even head of DevRel or so is, okay, we have a menu list of 300 parties, but projects come to me and then I need to take out my list and like manually match them, and it's like extremely cumbersome and obviously not efficient. And then on the provider side even, and that's obviously the most interesting one because suddenly providers are also in competition. But on the flip side, they also spend significant amounts of on BD, right? So all of these service provider firms in the space have big BD teams. You see them on every conference. It's not capital efficient to operate a business like this. So what we want to establish is if you're a high quality provider, you have a ready-made BD funnel that comes over the platform, and you should be incentivized to use it, because with more quality, you will be, over time also get more involved over the platform. And this is pretty much what we're trying to do. Creating this, through a platform. Obviously, it's not deep tech, but like through technology application, we're trying to unlock efficiencies that, provide value for all parties that participate.
And I wanted to actually follow up on that, because what exactly in this process are you helping builders to solve? Because for sure, we already saw the procurement part where you just explore your possibilities. You request an offer and then you collect the offers from auditors. But how How then, like, let's say that I'm a project. I requested, I submitted this request on your marketplace, and then I got 10 offers from 10 different auditors. How do I choose? Like, and which parts of this, and what happened next, and which parts of this process do you help to solve?
Yeah. So typically the journey of a builder is, okay, I need to do an audit in 2 months down the road. I know I need to do it. It's not like the topic I'm passionate about or something I want to prioritize, but it will come, and I need to look at it now. Then what happens is, okay, you ask yourself the question, what are good auditors? Either you have established relationships already and it's your like 5th audit, but if it's one of the first audits, it's very much likely that okay, I met 3 different parties on a conference and they basically are in my DMs. So let me just ping them and jump on a call, and then I just pick one of them because I don't really want to waste like mind space. Obviously, what you can see is that's not the most optimal solution for you, because the likelihood that you get the best quality, best price if you just talk to 2-3 parties, versus if you have the market view of 12 or 10 to 12 plus offers, I think that's obvious. For the builders, they use the platform one for discovery, so they go on there, upload the audit request, and then have the discovery of, okay, who's actually willing to meet my timeline and what are the conditions. And then the step in between is still manual and in the builder's camp. So they will still pick up the phone and talk to those auditors personally to understand, do they understand my scope? How do I feel about them? How do I perceive their quality to be? And then make the decision, and then go back to Marketplace and say, okay, look, this is the one that I picked. This is the core functionality for now. So the big unlock is process and price. What we want to do over time, and this is obviously the hardest nut to crack, is get more sophisticated in quality assessment. And it's, I think, an obvious one that a lot of people are excited about. It's not that easy to solve. Like, how do we get to a level of what is actually of those 100 players out there, or even just of the 25 whitelisted providers from ecosystem? What is the feedback of the market? How many hacks were there? What are actually the people within those organizations rated, and so on? So that will come over time with more volume, and is obviously not as straightforward to crack.
And let me ask for your advice, because you obviously have a lot of experience with this process. You've seen a lot of offers for audits. You talk to a lot of builders. So let's say that I'm a builder and I have like 10 offers ranging from 50K to 100K. What should I look into? Like, what should I be checking? How should I be evaluating those offers? Like, how do I choose auditor? You already mentioned one aspect that is super important. It's the deadline. Which is important for whether the auditor can meet my deadline or not. What are the other aspects that I should be looking into and focusing on when choosing an auditor for my project?
The biggest topic typically that builders check is the specific experience on the vertical a builder builds in. So say you're building a hook on Uniswap, very different than building a lending protocol on mainnet or whatsoever. Typically, what comes out of those first discovery calls, and sometimes they are one phase, and you talk to the security guys directly. Sometimes you talk to a BD person, and then afterwards the security guy. But in essence, what comes out is you present your specific problem, and then understand what is the specific experience and how many other protocols have they audited that are doing similar thing. So this is often like top of mind of builders, and then they have a strong preference already of a camp of like a handful of providers, and others are kind of out because they've never really done it. So that's what we found to be the most prominent. And then obviously pricing plays a role, but typically builders try to optimize for the right expertise before price, and then obviously it's very individual, right? If you're a bootstrap founder, 10K might be a lot of money for you. If you just raised a multi-million-dollar round, you might just go for the option that has done the audit like 20 times already and has a better reputation in the market.
I want to ask, what were the challenges in building an audit marketplace? And I'm getting a feeling like the platform itself, I don't think the difficulty was building the website, let's say. So what was?
Yeah, I think the biggest topic that we have right now is obviously we work together with the ecosystems that we have worked together in the past, and also new are coming to the list. One is, how do we find kind of an embedded approach into these ecosystems? Because as you know best, I mean, you're active in many different ecosystems as well. Every ecosystem is very different, so there are like, how they're managed and also how their builder ecosystems are set up differ wildly. Sometimes there's the case that you just provide the platform and the ecosystem lead like takes it and runs with it, and it's his new baby and he presents it everywhere. For others, it's more like an asset that sits out there. So how do we find a, I wouldn't want to say standardized, but somewhat scalable approach to embed ourselves in all of these ecosystems? That's one big topic, because it's obviously an approach that we're working together and we want to tailor it to the ecosystem. It shouldn't be like one size fits all. And yeah, they simply have different characteristics that we need to cater to. Another interesting topic is also depth versus breadth, basically. So what we built this to be is, not predominantly an audit marketplace, but there are other service categories that will likely be plugged in the future. Obviously, with building, everything, you have limited capacity. So with audit alone, it's a deep service category. You can expand the product in itself with more functionality. You can add, monitoring solutions, pre-audits. You can get more sophisticated on integrations, reputational score, everything. Versus you can also go broader and say, okay, we just launch a simple version of, audits, and then we launch a simple version of marketing and other services. So these are kind of these strategic decisions that we're, right now considering. I wouldn't call it it's not a challenge, but it's the biggest things that keep us awake at night, I would say. Challenge, I think is the activation of projects. As you're fighting for limited mind space, everyone is fighting for that mind space. Builders only have 24 hours a day, and a lot of people try to approach them and get them to use their products. For us, obviously, we feel very comfortable pitching it because it's people pick it up very easily because it's a clear value add, but still you need to scale that and raise awareness around it.
So let's dig deeper into that. So what is exactly your relationship with those ecosystems? Like where is your role in this relationship between ecosystems, builders, auditors? How are you connected to them, and who pays for it?
Yeah. Christopher always wants to dig into the really interesting stuff, I see. So basically, what we do is providing infrastructure, if you really want to abstract it away. So we want to be a tool that ecosystems can use to facilitate their processes. And that's the core angle. Their lives should be easier with using that, because right now it's manual and it's messy. The second question, I'm thinking, so the way it's is cross-financed is basically via a referral rate of the provider. So we use successful audit matches that go over the platform. The providers pay a referral fee that's kind of market standard in many service categories, and then we use that to optimize the platform, build new features, and obviously there's also revenue case for the company baked in there. So this is kind of the commercial model behind it. For the ecosystems, as I said, and you know best, it varies widely who's then leading it. Sometimes it's, you know, person in the foundation. Sometimes it's the head of ecosystem who then takes it. Sometimes it's also just plugged into all the dev docs and awareness initiatives, and there's no direct lead, but it's kind of self-sustaining just as a platform. And obviously we, you know, monitor what's going on there, and if things break, we try to fix them, which obviously also happens a lot in early rollout phases.
So let's say that I'm some kind of an ecosystem lead. I have a new L2 and I want to use Areta Marketplace in my ecosystem. I want to offer it to my builders. Like, what do I do? How do I approach you? What do I need to bring? Like, how does this process look like?
Yeah. I hope you can find me after watching this podcast, and Zinkas kindly links my Telegram or website somewhere. But yeah, you can find us. I think whenever you see the platform, there's always a contact form, my Telegram, or, you know, an email, and just reach out. We right now, I think, you know, the next launches that we onboard right now will be like in a month down the line, because right now the pipeline is full, and we're more focusing on, with the ecosystems that we've launched, optimizing what we have, and spend a lot of time in kind of product optimization at the moment. But yeah, we're always happy to chat and launch. What we typically need is basically a person on the other end that supports the integration, because that the marketplace only creates value if builders see it. So we don't want to have it run as like some initiative that sits somewhere, but it should be in every developer doc, should be on the official website, should ideally be embedded in social and awareness. And then we need a counterparty who takes ownership on some of the topics that are connected to it. So provider whitelisting is one topic that the foundation needs to do, because we are an objective party also to providers. We don't want to do, you know, make this selection ourselves. So the foundation in the end needs to make that selection. And the third thing that we always ask for, it's more like a favor to us, I think, is one call with the ecosystem person to really dig into the builder ecosystem, because we ideally want to understand all the initiatives we have set up between hackathons, grants, conference events. Where do most of the builders come from? How big is also the velocity? What are your problems, and so on? It's more I think a call that we like to have to really be embedded in the ecosystem, and also to educate ourselves to see where the problems are, that we can also solve long term.
And let's say that I'm an auditor. Sorry, like, let me just wrap this up. Like, let's say that I'm an auditor. You already have, like, if I'm looking correctly, 25 of them on your website, so probably you cover all of them. But let's say that I'm an auditor that is not yet on this list. How do I get on the list?
Yeah, we have a provider interest form also on the website. So there are intakes that we do into a provider pool that we then work with ecosystems on, that we then show basically to ecosystems. So if you're interested in being onboarded, just, you know, check out the website, fill in your information in the provider pool. The intake is typically like every 6 months, where we then revisit, okay, do we need to add new parties in the provider pool that are requested by ecosystems? That's one avenue. Another avenue is also going via the ecosystems that are live, and ask them to, you know, onboard you on the marketplace, because they're the final decision makers.
Okay. Yeah, my question was, which ecosystems you're working with right now? Uniswap is one of the obvious ones, since you showed it earlier, but which others?
We're right now live on Uniswap, Scroll, Sonium, the Sony L2, ICP, and then Base, launching with an announcement later next week, but the platform is already live for Base builders to use. And then now looking at like one launch every week, every 2 weeks ish. That's currently in the pipeline, kind of balancing out, you know, not onboarding too many at a time, because right now it's also really, with the ecosystems that we are live with, really showing how we can provide value, that there's actually velocity, and the platform works well. Yeah.
Okay, and one ecosystem you worked with and that we know haven't worked together on to an extent was Arbitrum, and with the Arbitrum DAO, and more particularly with the ATPC. Do you want to share your experience there?
Yeah, 100%. Wow, quite a while back. I think I think our experience has been great within Arbitrum DAO. A lot of the interactions that we had have become people that we either work with now or acquaintances that we see on a weekly. So I think it was just a great crowd also to be in at the time. For context, so what we've been involved with was a procurement committee, basically, that was elected by the DAO. There was a plan to back then solve procurement processes for Arbitrum DAO. So I think, how do we, as a DAO, select service providers, run RP processes? And then one part, interestingly, was also a subsidy fund. So an idea to allocate, I think, 2.5 million to builders to get audit subsidies. I think the interesting part back then was also one part that is still even part of the marketplace that we have today, was the mandate, and that you see oftentimes in DAOs, and you guys obviously know this best, was a typical DAO mandate where you have a mission. Okay, we need to serve provider procurement, but in a DAO style manner. So we elect the participants, put them in a room, and they work together to figure it out. Oftentimes, obviously, very manual. So, people think about the problem intellectually. Everybody has kind of a different skill set. And then you try to solve it via spreadsheets, forum posts, talking to stakeholders, which on the upside, I always think of like the most fertile ground for just getting things done. And the default is clearly on action. Like, it might not be the most capital efficient way because you likely overspend. It might not be the best skill set always. If you run like a proper centralized RP process, you might have gotten a better party. But for sure, it's kind of, strong emphasis on let's get stuff done and learn from it. And this is also what I think was just like happened in the procurement committee. So the team, I think, did quite a bunch of cool things. So set up different processes. I think many of them are still part of how the procurement operates nowadays. What we then did, and there was interestingly one part of this matching tool that is still part of the marketplace today, is we looked at it and saw also the inefficiencies in the procurement committee. So the committee was tasked to manually match projects with subsidies and providers, and it was very manual, took a lot of time. So then the team actually took the step and developed a very early MVP version of a matching platform for the committee to use. And I think was very excited at the time to see it being used. Obviously very scrappy, looked much different to what we have here. It was an early start also of that mechanism that is now still part of the marketplace, and obviously much refined by now.
And you have the experience of working with the DAO, as we mentioned with Arbitrum DAO. You have some other experiences with that as well. But when I asked like how to get involved with you from the ecosystem, you mentioned that you need a contact person from the other side. So this is usually better done with foundations. So I would like to ask about your opinion, your experience. Like, what are the challenges and benefits at the same time of working both with the DAO and the foundation? Like, what is better when?
100%. And I think also to put it in perspective, and I mean, you guys must also have interesting views on the general movement in the space, right? I think all of us that we've been involved in DAOs see a general shift, and this is kind of since the new administration in the US and less, worries about regulatory constraints, is a general shift in a more centralized direction for foundations or ecosystems, with basically the learning of, okay, we have done the DAO experiment for a long time and we haven't tamed the beast yet. That's how I always think about it. There are, upside cases where you can use the DAO as a feature, not as a bug, but many experiments also have shown the inefficiencies in terms of capital allocation and management. Then if you think as a, centralized actor, as a, foundation or even labs entity, and you want to spend your capital effectively, with those learnings, many, people in the space now think about, okay, how do we actually take out the inefficiencies, and how do we gradually test also if the foundation should play a bigger role? Is it actually like good what we do with the DAO and so on? So a lot of these learnings, I think, were generated over the last 2 years, and now you see that general shift. My personal take, or also our house take, is that the upside case, I think, for DAOs are still this launch pads, very many different views and opinions, and like early experimentation. So I think even Arbitrum DAO is a good example for that. So people familiar with Arbitrum DAO, you've seen, I think the incentive program was one of the first ones that was very manually managed, but a lot of learnings. Now it's like much more institutionalized, works much better. Grants, people experimented a lot with DAO managed grants, a lot of learnings. Procurement committee, I think, was an example. Subsidy fund, delegate incentives. So all of this was launched very fast because you have all the people that are incentivized to launch it, are also like parties or groups that want to work in DAOs. However, obviously, generally you overspend as a DAO because you need to factor in people need to do all of these BD, like long BD cycles, talking to 20 different stakeholders, run a DAO process, so need to charge more, and people need to be put together. You have elections instead of just nominating one party and so on. So all these inefficiencies are costs of launching fast and experimentation. That's how I see it. So I think the upside case there is still apparent. So if you have new things you want to try out, throw it in a DAO, overpay a bit. You have, hundreds of opinions and a lot of attention on it because people are generally just interested and also have incentives to be interested. And then you can take those experiments and either internalize them or find a more streamlined way to manage. That's, I think, generally still an upside case. Another upside case is, and that's less DAO, where I see some foundations moving, is just like appointing parties that are somewhat in the DAO ecosystem. So generally, DAOs attract more stakeholders, and then you and a foundation can kind of pick and select the ones that you want to work together with. So it's a bit of like a hiring funnel, or a contracting funnel for service providers. What certainly needs to be improved, and I think the space is moving in the direction, and I think you heard it from like my last comment also about this one counterparty, and you picked it up, is this: there needs to be some type of strategic direction / guidance that there's general alignment on, because this is where a lot of the inefficiencies in DAOs came from, and in really decentralized ecosystems are still coming from. If you by default put 50 people in a room and let the people figure out what they should do, it has a high potential that it's not the most efficient way to rule anything, right? Contributors don't know what to do. Anything that is election-based is kind of a popularity contest, and people spend more time in like stakeholder management than actually doing the work, so that's costly. Centralization of power, I think, is always the big poster child a year back and so on. You just have people with different incentives. There are also financial incentives, and that rarely ends up with something that's really, achieves big things or is efficient at the least. Can still achieve big things, but you likely overspend, and it comes with a lot of inefficiencies. I think that's my take. I mean, we're super excited, obviously, still being involved in a lot of ecosystems to see how this shapes out now. Very fresh wind, I think, since this year, and yeah, will shape out to be seen what's the winning model in the end.
I want to expand on that a little bit and ask, given your experience both in DAOs and through Areta Marketplace, and like connecting builders with audit firms is clearly a way to help builders with their projects and everything. And I wanted to ask, what, in your opinion and experience, is something that is like needed by builders, but often kind of like overlooked or not dismissed, but it's not like a priority on most people's mind?
Yeah. I think that, like, my mental model is always these capital distribution and services as a builder, because everybody's great in developing tech, and that's where most of the excitement on average lays with builders in crypto. The thing that I think we haven't really cracked as a space is really helping builders with what they really need. And what we've done in the past is, okay, they need capital, so let's give them grants or sometimes investment, but that's basically it, and they figure it out themselves, which I think is a bit the ambition from the traditional space, right? Like, a successful founder should be able to survive with just capital, and everything else he needs to figure out themselves. I think we have a lot of potential, though, in crypto, of people that don't think the traditional founder way, and they really just want to focus on building. So what we haven't cracked is really, incubator, accelerator models that work. And I think, like, Atrium at Uniswap, I think, is an interesting experiment where I think there's a good first, like, momentum on it, where there's actually catered support for builders and, like, helping them learning how to be a founder from, like, I did a project and it has, if I do it right, it has a lot of potential, but it will likely die, to how do we turn those guys into founders? Maybe we need to match them with a, commercial guy. We need to, teach them how to do distribution and growth. We need to, every builder needs something different, but it needs to be very catered and handheld. And the shift that I generally see is, like, ecosystems are moving away from this spray and pray approach, right? Has a super bad rep. Grants have a super bad rep. Now it's like, yeah, we want to build an organic ecosystem of 10 to 20 builders, and that's what we want to focus on, and, like, rather go deep and be closer and try to shape them into something meaningful than spray and pray, because the learning doesn't really work. So that's something I'm super excited about. I haven't seen that many, like, early signs of promising approaches yet, because there's, like, traditional accelerator model as we know it traditionally, with, like, they take a percentage of the builders and so on, really turns into, it's a VC-like model. So I think ecosystem can come up with something that doesn't need to be, tap into the fallacies of that model, but, like, is kind of closer to the actual interest of the builder to succeed. That's I think the key one.
And I want to also, like, follow on this, because, like, you are a builder in the space, but you came from white, conservative, traditional background. What advice would you give for any, Web2 or even, like, traditional finance company that wants to engage with crypto, wants to start building, or at least, getting involved in crypto? What should they do? Like, what should they focus on?
Yeah. Obviously, it depends. A bit of a boring answer, but if you're an institutional, you want to get closer to the space, typically there's a big disconnect, obviously, on how these people think, talk, how they feel about, building companies and so on. The honestly easiest one would always be just go to the, biggest conference near your city and really like dive into it, talk to people, see how they, how they think, how they breathe, see if you can also connect to it and, for the right motive, hopefully. And then figure out, who are the right people in the ecosystem to talk to. I think that's always the first step, because obviously within crypto, our conference culture is very unique to an extent, I would say. It's very different than in the traditional space. Even Web2, it doesn't really exist to that extent. And then I think nodes in the ecosystem that connect people. And I think you land there quite fast, right? Like the right people, either, individual people that are just very well connected and you talk to them and they will guide you, or even, associations that have that as a mission, where I also still need to do my homework to be fair, but I know there's great stuff out there that, have that mission also to bring the traditional space closer to crypto. Our house tech also is there, right? Like there are many things that we can also learn from the traditional space. Otherwise, that's kind of our core going in thesis of Areta in itself, where, we're talking about an interesting, potentially world-changing technology that has many application areas, but it's very early. On the process level and how to run companies and so on, people have done that for hundreds of years. And there's things that are simply good, and it's not like, that's, trad, like, let's not look at it, let's do our own stuff. There's so many things to be solved. I'm always a fan of, okay, why not take the things that work well on the process and operating level and, focus the innovation on a technical level. I know we have a tendency to try to innovate on all levels at the same time, but that can also slow us down significantly in the end. So
come on, you will make so many people upset. Like, what are you saying? We should not reinvent the wheel? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, it's funny because obviously we're all, intellectually curious people. Like even DAO as an experiment, we're all extremely passionate about how to make it work. Like, we see the upside case, there are a million problems to solve, but it also is like a 10-year problem and not a 1-year problem. So yeah, I think we need to decide on like what do we want, fast growth or solving intellectual problems as a priority.
Okay, because like we are kind of heading towards the end of our session. Let me ask now about the future. Like, what are the plans for Areta, both for the marketplace, but also for Areta, like in general? So where are you headed, and what should we be expecting in the next like half a year?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously now is also a very exciting time to talk about the future. I think on the Areta core side, if you want to call it that, we want to be the leading professional services firm in the space, and that's predominantly in financial transactions. So on the M&A side, we're on our way to really be one of the preferred providers for anyone who wants to sell their company in the space as a potentially life-changing moment in time for a founder, and we want to be there to cater that exact moment. On the Areta market side, we're in full growth mode. So we've done the pilot with Uniswap that finished a couple months back, and we opened the marketplace now to other ecosystems just 6 weeks ago. So really now, as I said before, is doubling down on creating value for the ecosystems that we live with, while also balancing, scaling to new ecosystems, to more builders, and developing the product on the side. So, full growth mode, full kind of mode ahead, and yeah, hopefully we'll have another check-in a year or so down the line, and we can reflect on that plan. But yeah, certainly very exciting time for us.
And are there any call to action that you would like to make? Any announcements, any news, anything?
Yeah, 100% always. Let me use the platform. I think on those different angles, right? If you are project looking for a service, we are super happy to talk. Even if you don't, if it's not a case to use the platform now, we're in big also exploration mode, really understanding your discovery process. How can we support, even if it's like manual at the time? Then on the foundation side, I think always happy to chat. If that's interesting for you, feel free to shoot a DM. And then on the team side, or anyone who's listening, who's excited by our mission, what we're building, we're actively hiring, growing the team. Fully remote setup. Most of the team is between Asia and Europe. If that sounds like something you're excited about, also please feel free to shoot me a DM.
Perfect. And include links in the description, so anyone wants to find anything. Yeah, it's down here.
And my question, because you mentioned services, right now you are dealing with audits. What other services are you planning to include in your platform?
Yeah, the next one likely on the horizon. So on the audit side, we're going to integrate a larger part of the funnel, most likely. On the next service verticals, likely, and it's kind of in scope phase right now, would be something that solves distribution, marketing service as kind of one category. It's not as commoditized as audit, so it will be a bit of a different mechanism with more bespoke kind of offer mechanics, but certainly we see a big unlock there in like giving something that supports with distribution to founders. And yeah, that's the next one around on the horizon. Then there is a longer list of things that we want to think through, but yeah, for now, capacity allows.
If I can make a wish list, like could you please disrupt the KYC provider services? Like, can we make it a bit more competitive, and those KYC providers care a bit more and do a bit better job? Because like I'm doing this all the time, and I always like feel the pain.
All right, adding it to the list. I saw one like just close down, one of the big ones that we've always been using, and I haven't really checked the space too much and like how broad it is in different ones. But yeah, made a mental check mark on that one.
There's an idea for you. Right. Unless Christoph has any final questions, or Bernard, if there's any final remarks you'd like to make, we could be wrapping this up.
Yeah, appreciate you guys taking the time and setting this up. Was a pleasure as always. And then
absolutely, thanks.
Let's catch up in like half a year from now and see whether our predictions were correct or wrong.
Now we have a time-stamped public version. What about before?
All right. Well, Bernard, thank you again for being on the episode. Really like chatting with you. And for everyone listening, thank you, and see you at the next one.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.